Hello, welcome back to the Magic Yogi Podcast. You're listening to episode 23. And just going to give a little quick intro. This is a little bit of a group podcast that I had with my buddy Alfredo. And people from his online community joined in. We had Wei Wu and Spectre on the show. And it was a really good time. So I hope you enjoy it. And I want to give a quick shout out to a supporter of the show, Shaylin. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the show. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, and a few other places. But yeah, we'll start the show. But yeah, it's good to hear from you though.
So what is it about? What is your podcast about tonight?
Oh, I'm kind of just it's really just a catch up thing and for just to kind of make sure that I'm doing the podcast regularly. And since you were available, just to kind of catch up with you and kind of expand on some of the stuff we were talking about when we were discussing your book, you know. And if anyone else shows up into the voice chat, we can see what they have to say too.
You know, Quantum is pretty good about the economy. Maybe you can do a podcast with him.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, he seems like he knows a lot about things that I don't know about, which makes me interested.
yeah, it will be an interesting podcast with him. Probably talk about all kinds of issues. He's very smart.
Yeah, because the thing like with me, I'm not a very practical person. You know, I don't really know I'm not very knowledgeable about things like economics or politics and like hard science things. You know.
Yeah, I'm the same way. You know, I don't know much about it. I know the basics. Talk about it. But not like an Alex Jones, I guess.
Yeah, like I have an interest in everything. You know, like I'll watch videos about physics things and I'll try to watch, things about politics and try to keep up a little bit, but I don't pretend to be a expert on anything else other than, the things that I'm into.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'm not an expert on anything. Uh, but I do like the spiritual, philosophical type of stuff, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about it earlier today about how through the time that I've spent talking to people in your little community that you have, that everyone that's in your online community is all people that are interested in some way in esoteric things and the occult. And I was trying to kind of pinpoint, I wonder, what exactly is it that pushes people to be interested in that side of things? Because I've met a lot of people that have zero interest in anything, that's outside of kind of day-to-day life, and that's not the nuts and bolts of
Yeah.
society. And
Yeah.
sometimes I wonder, what's the instinct, to push people towards those.
One of the reasons I use the name Lucifer, well, one, I identify with him, you know, as a light bearer. Another reason is because he keeps people away that is not meant to be here.
Mm.
And they see the name Lucifer immediately, all the people that I don't want around, they will usually just not even try to come in.
Right, right.
Generally, people that will be more open-minded, that have a wider range of knowledge, they will understand and they will be interested on the videos I made or the Discord. So the name kind of keeps the very nice type of quality people.
It kind of acts as a filter in a way,
Exactly.
and that's one of the things I think. I think maybe there's not too many people who understand that about the way that you interact with the internet and such. is that,
Mm,
from the very first time that I saw your writings, because the way that I got to know you is by reading posts that you would put up on forums,
yeah.
places like Godlike Productions, if people haven't heard about that place. But the thing that I really that kind of made me think originally, because I would save some of your writings, and I eventually thought,
Mm,
I eventually want to talk to this person because
yeah.
through watching the way that you would interact with people, the things that I liked about what you did was, number one is, like you said, using, the alias of Lucifer as a filter to kind of,
Mm,
as a way of kind of doing a preliminary gauge on what people's mindset were immediately. Because you can know
mm.
right away a lot about a person by how they react to someone who's going by the name of Lucifer. Yeah.
Exactly. You got it.
And the other part of what I appreciated about the things that you would put out on the internet was, the
Mhm,
fact that the way that you dealt with the onslaught of negativity that you would get from being honest about your ideas and about how you think of things.
mhm.
And and you actually inspired me to be more open about things and to do posts of my own and to put my own writings out and to not care about the feedback that you would get.
I often say or think as negativity or force against me as resistance
Mm-hmm.
is assistance. Always remember that. The more they resist me, the higher the energy I can harvest, push my ideas and my philosophies in my way, you know? So resistance is assistance. That's why I like GOP because I know everybody's going to go against me, which is good thing. You know, I use all that energy to push my philosophies into minds that otherwise they will not have access to them or to think. You know.
Yeah. And um the thing too is that people who react really strongly to ideas that are outside of their wheelhouse, so to speak, that your ideas will still stick with them sometimes, irregardless of what their reactions to you are. You can never really know what your effect is when you put your creative thoughts out there, or your thoughts about the nature of reality and your perspective. You can't really know totally what that effect is just by the feedback.
Exactly, that's true. You know, I think with the internet now that we're able to communicate across the planet, is that information and knowledge is spreading. You know, now anybody can communicate with thousands of people. You know, so I believe that through this new mechanism of communication, we might have the opportunity to rise consciousness,
Mhm.
to remove, layers of knowledge that otherwise were not possible to do so. So I think the internet and all that we have today will permit uh, the introduction of a new order of things, a new, how can I say, illumination, dispensation of reality.
Before I go on with that, just want to give a shout out to another um, person from the community that's listening in, Wei Wu. Good to see you in here, and think
Can you hear us?
okay, I don't think she's gonna be on the podcast, but anyways, but hey, Wu, if you want to, you can chime in anytime you want. That's why we got this on the voice chat. But anyways, what I was gonna say was, I kind of, one of the things that I've really liked about what you've been doing in terms of setting up your community on Discord,
Mhm.
gathering together people that are into things that are outside the normal paradigm, that most people interact with is that when I interact with the people that are in this community, it reminds me of the way the internet used to be, where it was
Mm,
a free for all of ideas, and when
yeah.
there was a lot less control because I appreciate that in your community you really take a hands off approach. You know.
Well, I don't like banning people,
Hmm.
and I mostly let them say what they want. The only way I will draw the line is if they put pornography or something like that. I
Right.
usually don't allow that. But
Like.
other than that, you can say anything you like, and you can even oppose me if you want to. I
Right.
won't. So that's how I wish GLP will be, where they will permit everybody to talk about any subject as long as you're not doing nothing inappropriate.
And I think um, communities like yours and the way you run them, even though it gets chaotic at times, it does allow for a kind of expression that isn't there in most places. And I like you were saying how hopefully we can start using the technology we have to spread these ideas, and for good or bad, open
Yeah.
up the lines of communication, open up information more freely. And um, I think the internet in general kind of went through a process of, freedom, and then it kind of got to a peak. And then there was
Mm,
a large few years of commercialization and lockdowns by government and monopolies, with social media, and the days of forums and open discussion started going away, and it only exists now in small pocket communities like yours where you kind of
mm.
have these little enclaves of freedom.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it's the place is growing, so I mean, eventually it's gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, the conditions will remain as long as I can. As long as they don't remove my Discord, it will continue. People will have the freedom to speak and express themselves. Anyway, we will. Anything you want to say?
No, no, I'm working and listening for now. Okay, next time.
Uh, well, we basically Dylan kind of want to make it to where everybody that wants to talk can talk. So it's just not about me or.
We won't force anyone. No, we're not gonna. Don't worry, we won't. We're not gonna coerce anyone. But yeah, no, it's totally open.
Let me finish in here, and after that, maybe I will join a little bit. Okay?
Okay, all right. But what I was gonna say too is that um,
Yeah.
I think there is a little bit of value, at least for now, with being small. Because
Mhm.
in the world of podcasting, I only know about what's going on in the culture through comedy, through comedians that do podcasts. And there's been a lot of big
Mhm.
names that have gone through issues with censorship and such, but that's only because they've gotten big enough to the point where there's corporate interests and things involved with their podcasts, or they're getting so many viewers that they're seen as providing a public service. But a podcast like mine and a community like yours, we're in a position where we can say whatever we want, and we don't have to worry about being censored or,
Yeah.
etc. And um, I think
If
it,
one day, I think if one day I become large, I don't know. Maybe it will happen. Maybe not. I
well,
will still, I will still act the same way. I will offend everybody.
yeah. Well, the thing I was saying was that, I think that the way that we're doing things for now is the right way to go, where we're growing what we're doing, but we're doing it organically, and we're doing it, word of mouth. It's someone
Mhm.
telling someone else that they might be interested in what we're doing. And
Yeah.
down the road, like you said, down the road there could be more people, looking at what we do, but I think if we stick to what we're doing and we don't try to be anything that we're not, then I don't think there's much to worry about, because I think, the amount of
Yeah.
people that pay attention to us, it'll all kind of calibrate out in the end. And, you know,
Well, yeah. Another thing is I build this community on Discord and Facebook, and I'm doing it, for the sake of having that community, that type of group of people and energy around me. Because as I give information and knowledge, I also receive knowledge from everybody else. Because
mhm,
we are in the same type of mentality and philosophy. So this is, I guess, an experience of learning and creating community.
mhm.
So that's basically my aim. It's not like some groups that they try to make money or they try to gain something. This is a disinterest that mostly is just to have a community, a friendship with people, and communicate and create things and just have chat.
And it's not a it's not a personality cult like a lot of online groups become, where there's there's
Mm,
leaders and there's people that are untouchable, and there's rules that you have to follow. That's what happens with a lot of
mhm,
online communities. And that's what I mean. I think
yeah.
that's why, like, I'm a very anti group person, and
Mhm,
I don't really interact too much with many online groups. But the one that you put together, I've been glad that I've been involved with it and kind of interacting with people, because, like I said, I come from the old school
yeah.
philosophy of the internet, where everything was free. There was no safeguards. It was just, whatever
Yeah.
people put out there, and you just deal with it.
Mm. Yeah, I don't like the current society. Everybody gets offended about everything. Basically, had to walk on needles and eggshells. So that's what I'm saying. If one day I get more noticed by society, I probably will turn the entire world against me, and it's fine. I still will not change how I am and what I am just to please government or society or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's something that I related to you a lot with. Is, I've lived a life
Mhm.
where I haven't followed, the the expected path, and I've done a lot of things outside of, social norms, and I've tried to live an independent life, even though that, you know that goes along with solitude and, ridicule, or, being not really being
Mhm.
able to, uh, like where I live, I'm not really involved in very many community things locally, because I just, it's,
Yeah. Well, you really like where I live. I also not involved with anybody. My neighbors don't even know me.
hmm,
It's just that I seek the people that is like me, and I'm very rare, very strange. So that type of community which I seek can only be found in a global scale. So from people from all over the world, that's the only place you can really find your tribe.
hmm,
You will never really find it on a community unless you're very normal. You like football and then you marry with kids and you just
hmm.
an average Joe six pack without any interest outside football and basic politics. That's the majority of people. Uh, Basically, Joe six pack and Sally
Hmm.
type. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like there is a Lucifer or a Dylan or a Wig Woo around.
Hmm.
It's basically
But there's like one
you.
of us on each continent. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean,
No, I get what you mean, though. I'm just being
truly
silly.
speaking, people like us is about 5% maybe of the population. So we are not mainstream type of archetypes, characters.
But I think the important part of that is that it is possible to find people that you do relate to. That it's very, like you said, there's we might be representative of a small group, but
Hmm.
there's a group, there. But if you look out there, there is every once in a while you meet someone where like what I say with me and you, like we don't necessarily have all the same thoughts on everything. We don't necessarily,
Hmm.
we're not copies of each other. But throughout all of the times that we've talked, we know that there's something common that we both see and that we both experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that it's something that we don't, that's outside of, what we see around us, like in our environment, that we've
Hmm.
kind of tuned into some kind of a stream of thought that isolates us in a way because like you said it's uncommon in the communities that we're in. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's why even though things maybe aren't too easy these days, also I'm hopeful because of things like the internet and that we can do things
Mhm.
that we do, and things like my podcast. Even though I don't have that many listeners, I do get feedback here and there that lets me know that it's worthwhile to put your energy out there and to put effort in.
By doing what you're doing, which is putting those podcasts, I don't know, maybe getting your newspaper back,
Mhm.
you will begin to attract people with that kind of mentality to you. Little by little, you can grow a community out of that. That community, although will be each individual will be have its own thing, but they will have a commonality that will create that community around you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot achieve it unless you speak and create what you do. And so basically, that's what we're doing here. Is I do what I do, and people come in, people that are in that same state of mind, that frequency. And, that's how we build. Little by little, it's going to grow more and more and more. Uh, you have to attract them to you, or you are attracted to them by the frequency of thinking.
You
That
know,
yeah.
what I just thought of is I kind of feel like even though me and you aren't very social people, and we might not,
Hmm.
but I do think that because of our perspective and the fact that we were putting in effort to kind of help progress, things in general, that I think that people like us feel a need to kind of rebuild the idea of community and rebuild, like from the ground up, how people connected with each other and interacted. Because the ways that people did it before have been under attack. Community groups and things like that are. It's not easy for people to connect and build strong communities anymore. I don't think.
Yeah, no, it's true. Uh, well, as I mean, part of the internet is also that now people have access to the same things, like people from, let's say, Zimbabwe or Poland or I don't know, Guatemala have the same access to see what's happening, for example, in the United States or Canada or Europe,
Hmm.
and that kind of creates an influence, more like of a genetic influence around the world, where everybody's going to dress the same, talk the same, have the same ideas. In a way, that influence, that general influence wins to have a less individual society,
Hmm.
So somebody like me or like you, we kind of come with a different individuality that can enforce, uh, can I say, a different type of perspective. So in a way, although the internet can shape and build a new consciousness, at the same time can create the opposite, where everybody is just dressing the same, talks the same, has the same belief systems. Because everybody is just influenced by the same group of people.
Yeah, that makes me think that culture in general is being influenced by something that's coming from outside of
Mhm.
normal experience. You know what I mean? Because normally, because
Mhm.
there's influences coming into culture that weren't there before because of the internet. The
Exactly.
cross mixing and the, like you said, people having access to information that they never had before.
Yeah, it's a good thing and a bad thing. It can go either way.
It's
The
giving power to people,
Mhm.
and so yeah, like you said, that's neutral. It's neither good nor bad. You know,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
about what people do with it.
exactly. The internet can be a blessing. I mean, for example, I use it to listen to audiobooks, to all kinds of code information, to philosophy, to people that I would not have discovered 30 years ago, because unless you go to the library, and even then, it's not the same as to just get into YouTube and have
Mm.
all these different people with different ideas. So it's enriching. If you don't use it for that, but just to, I don't know, watch soccer and football games and basic politics, you're not going to develop yourself
Hmm.
much.
I was,
So
yeah,
go on.
I was gonna ask you about your book. This is just a little bit of a tangent, but like I do a little bit of writing, and I've been like and I was wondering, do you really see what you write as you letting something kind of pass through you, information getting translated through you, or do you feel like it's something that's like inherent in you that you're bringing out? Because this is something that I never totally settled on with creative writing.
I think it's both. Sometimes I'm just channeling something from the ether. Other times it's just something within me that is just coming out. I think the book was a channeling of my own internal being, my infinite being. I simply was able to access that story, and I just represented it in the book.
So
As you can see, the story looks old and timeless. It's like something from an ancient, undescribable amount of time in the past. I don't know. That's how it feels to me.
maybe that maybe that distinction I'm making
Mm,
is illusory. Maybe that's not real. The difference between whether you're channeling something, being a vessel for something, or you're
mm.
creating something. Maybe that difference isn't real in the sense.
Well, when I say channeling, it's not that I'm channeling from a being or from something outside myself. When I say channeling, meaning that I'm accessing from my inner entity.
Hmm.
I consider myself as infinite, eternal, where all universes, all dimensions, all possibilities are within me. So I'm accessing the information, the energy from my own entity.
Hmm.
So I don't know if the correct word is channeling myself, or just intuitively accessing my own uh, entity information.
I
Do I make sense?
Yeah, I could see, because I guess the way that I would think about that is, for myself, if I think about getting to the deepest parts, and when I say deepest, I guess I mean the most essential part of myself, the part that, lets go of ego, sensation, and
Hmm.
emotion, that eventually there's something in me that's universal. That I could get
Exactly.
to something that's a fundamental aspect of reality that I'm a part of. And if I can connect to that, sometimes I can bring out things that, like you said, are like I said, it's tough to talk about because it's not channeling
Mhm.
something from another being or like another intelligence, but it's more being a conduit for something that's outside of individuality. I think
Mhm.
that's like the way that I would think about that.
Yeah, no, I don't see it that way. I didn't channel it from anything, from no entity, from no being.
Mhm.
It was an access of my deeper layers of my being, you know,
Well,
which
could we almost speculate that the fabric of reality is information itself? So, you could kind of say maybe that if you can get out
it
of
is.
if you could get out of your own way and be outside of your individual limited self, that you could maybe translate some of that kind of infinite information field and try to bring some of it into human awareness.
Yeah, I mean, a cat, a dog, a tree.
I mean, that's
Uh,
basically what they say the Bible did, isn't it?
yeah,
Because
but they,
it's tied in with a lot of stories, cultural stories, but people who really are dedicated to a Christian view do see the Bible as a translation of divine, divine information, even if it might not be that anymore.
the difference is that these writers from the Bible, they were channeling a God, a
Mhm.
deity outside themselves. Jehovah or Yahweh or angels, I was not channeling any entity outside myself.
Yeah,
Was entering myself and accessing my own energy, my own information. I
like
believe inside, yeah.
in the yogic way of looking at it, when they refer to the self, they refer to that universal aspect of self. They don't mean,
Mhm.
self in the egoic kind of individual way, but they mean that kind of essential element that pervades
Yeah.
everything. So, like you were saying, I think, that's something that a lot of people are who are critical of Christianity would say, that, you're not that those aren't instructions from
Mhm.
creation; those are instructions from some higher entity. There that you might have been talking to a god, but you
Mhm.
weren't getting information from source. I mean, that's a certain perspective, but
Yeah, but I think the writers of the Bible were misguided. They were channeling themselves, but their knowledge was limited because were they were channeling God or Jehovah. But in reality, they were channeling themselves, but they didn't have the level of knowledge you and I have. So they didn't understood. So their knowledge is effective. Uh, it's not it's not a proper conduit uh, because they are not. How can I say? It's like they channeling that egregore, that energy outside themselves.
mhm.
So that when you do that, that carries uh, how can I say, a virus
Mhm.
defect. It's not pure. I accessing the God within myself, the universal self, the total entity which exists in me and exists in you. We are that being, we are God or the universal being.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's what I did. But I will always say that the book is fiction.
It's a hard concept to talk about, because for me, like, my personal opinion about
Mhm.
the Bible and the whole mythology around it is that I do kind of have the instinct that there was someone at the point in history that the book was being written. There might have been someone who was uh, a representative of the kind of eternal teachings, and who, there was maybe a higher realized person who was around at that time, whose
Mhm.
stories, were written about, and then things were extrapolated on with, and then combined with historical things, and then, through the generations we get this translated text. So that's why, even though, I it's interesting to talk about, but it's a hard thing to really actually go
Well,
into for the truth of it.
The Bible was is a mixture of Egyptian and Babylonian and civilizations that were previous to the Jews. So they actually took a lot of the ancient information and kind of shape it into what it is now. So when we see the repercussions the Bible and Christianity and the Judaism religion cause, we can see the chaos and the deficiency of the culture and systems that it brought. It introduced Islam and Judah and Christianity, and we can see when these religions are very dense in society, where it becomes a society that is just dumb, uh, incapable of evolution, actualization. So that's why I think the Hebrew system and history and his religion, is not a true channeling. They just stole information from a previous civilization
Mm-hmm.
and they made it into their own. So I will always consider the three Abrahamic religions as a defect that should not exist. And as long as it does exist, it will contaminate civilization.
And I this is kind of a an odd idea, but
Mm,
I always kind of feel like anytime there's a spiritual belief that hinges on some entity that has a name and has
mhm,
a form, and that's a singular thing that you have to either sacrifice to, or is directly involved with the material world.
mhm,
To me, that is a clue that those people were worshiping, or being subservient to some non-material entity that might have been in a
mhm.
position to influence people. But that's no indication of something that's divine, or, as I would say,
Exactly.
transcendental, or something that's like, because
Yeah.
like I've had experiences through my practices where I could feel what I was, you know what I mean, like what the self is, when
Mhm,
there's nothing else there, when there's no conditioning on it, when there's no thoughts. And those experiences through meditation made me
mhm.
never feel like I ever have to be subservient to something outside of myself.
That's exactly how I feel and what meditation does for me. Like when I meditate, I usually like to astral project,
Mm.
move, like to move in the dimension of this of reality. Like when I move an astral project, I don't have materiality. I can move anywhere at the bottom of the ocean, in the middle of a volcano. That's what the true self is. It's without body, it's just pure mind. So part of my meditation or my exercise is to experience that reality where I'm not constrained by a physical body, but I'm just pure mind. So that allows me to reach that layer of the self which I seek to be, which I seek to bring up out, the universal self, beyond body, beyond time.
There was
So
I think I might have told you about it in the other podcasts that we did, but there's this
mm,
really good book in the yogic traditions called the Yoga Vasista, and
mhm,
it's a book between it's basically like the transcript of a conversation between a teacher and a student. And the
mhm,
student is kind of has a similar story to like the Buddha story, that they're a privileged person who grew up in a royal family, and their
mhm,
family thinks this person has to be a great ruler, but they don't know anything about reality, so we need to bring in a teacher to make sure that this person can rule effectively. And so the book
mhm,
is just this teacher breaking down this young person's ideas about the world. And the thing I like about that book is that the first part of it is all taken up by this young person talking about
Mhm.
everything that's wrong with the world, about how, there's all this suffering, and nothing lasts, and I see everything that people work for, turns to
Mhm.
dust, like this kingdom that my family fought and gave their lives for is going to be gone
Yeah.
in the blink of an eye, and all this. And then slowly the teacher brings him through these stories and through these teachings to teach him that, you know, um, that
Mhm.
everything he's experiencing is all just manifestations of mental energy, and that everything he sees is the self, and
Correct.
that different manifestations have different roles to play, and that he's no different than a beggar in the street, and that to be an effective ruler, he has to have that perspective of being of
Mhm.
seeing outside of time and outside of his own experience, because he's in this privileged position where he can affect a lot of people, and he's going to
Yeah.
have a lot of influence over the world. And so to give his country a good life, he has to give up his normal ignorant life, and he has to accept his
Mhm.
identity as being an aspect of universal consciousness. And
Well, that's you. Would you just describe how I describe myself? I know everything's inside me. You are me. I'm actually talking to you, but
mhm,
you are me, and I am you.
yeah,
We are we are fractals of the same universal being.
yeah, we're self, yeah,
Uh, yeah. We just we kind of in this illusion that we are separate, but everything is I am everything, and so. Uh, I mean, my perspective is, I cannot worship anything outside myself. I cannot seek salvation from anything outside myself. I know that it is within my capacity and within my power to change my reality. if we could
So,
bring, if we could
just a
bring us, if
moment.
it will,
Just a moment. I
oh,
want
but
to say something.
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah,
That teacher you were talking about was actually speaking about the attachment and detachment balance, right?
Right.
Is the same principle that you find somewhere else, I think even in the Bible or in a religious writing, about being in this world but not of this world, you know?
Mm.
Meaning that you can be attached to this reality, but you have to detach to see the panoramic view of this reality, right?
Mhm. And
Hmm?
I think it was kind of important for the story that it was someone of royalty that was being taught
It's
those
always
things.
someone of royalty because it's based in the history of Indian,
I
culture and so on. Not only there, where everything was based on castes, I think it's the term,
Oh, yep,
you
yep,
know?
like the caste system. Because I think
Exactly. And
maybe
usually
for
the knowledge,
I
yeah.
think yeah, maybe
Mhm.
for their culture, maybe
Culture.
they would see
Maybe they
that
would see that
It's not only in their culture, when people in ancient times, people in majority didn't have access to education, right? So basically, the education was the apanage, or how do you say the word, of the royalties and rich people, right?
yeah, only privileged people had education.
Exactly. It was a privilege education. So all the knowledge was passed on in the rich class, in the among the royalties and so on,
Mhm.
because they had to actually learn how to lead, how to be a ruler.
Yeah, I think that those groups felt that if the like it didn't, like maybe it didn't matter whether the peasants knew that or not, because they felt like, well, peasants and lower class people aren't going to have an effect over the entire population the way that a ruler would in
Exactly.
those days. So they would,
Exactly.
so maybe they just, didn't, even if it would have been better for those cultures to spread that information more freely, in their minds, they thought, well, what's the point? Like all these people outside of our walls are going to live and die with no consequence, but the next person in line to rule this country needs true education. And so that's
Exactly.
why maybe
So
yeah, well, go ahead.
usually education was kept among these rich people, royalties, and priests, high priests and priests. It was always the affair of the state um, with religion, which were controlling and ruling a population.
Mm-hmm.
So
It
that's why even when you talk about the Bible, as you talked before, being channeling a certain entity and so on, you cannot say that for sure, because you have to actually look on what the Bible is based. It's based on ancient teachings which were manipulated by Romans, and after the Romans by other priests, right?
Mhm.
Who were translating the Bible and who wanted to give other meanings to the words. You have to see the original papers or writings, scrolls, whatever
Yeah,
they were,
I feel like
to understand the.
I feel like I can still see some of that in the
Mm,
Bible, because I have a Bible from that was, I think, printed in the 1970s, and
mm.
I've read it from time to time, and I can still see those threads of that information in there, through the translations and such.
Let me
Yeah, I
just
mean,
say a quick thing. Sean McDade, if you want to join us on the conversation, you can. It's for everybody. Sean,
Well,
yeah, you're welcome to join us if you want to.
all right. What's the topic?
We're just talking about how can I say, Dylan?
Oh, I think
Uh,
we've just been talking about the way culture has dealt with spiritual teachings, and how that information's been kind of kept to the higher levels of society. But I think these days maybe we're moving into slowly. I mean, since the 90s, I think we're moving into somewhere where the general population has access to things they generally wouldn't have.
Yeah, those
yeah,
teachings have been lost for a long time. The only way you're going to find the essence of where they came from is if you found someone that died and came back as a reincarnate.
That is what there's. I think the only person that I know of that's possibly someone like that is named Lahiri Mahasaya. He's the guy that I, you know, do a lot of my teachings based off of. I think he was alive in the late 1800s. And he's the only person that brought a lot of the inner alchemy and a lot of the practical yoga teachings into the modern day. But no, it's really, information isn't easy to come by these days.
oh yeah, that's true. I don't. Anyway, wait, you were gonna say something? And I
Man,
interrupted you.
everything is information after all. You only have to clear your mind and let it flow through you.
Mm.
Did I say something idiot?
Have
As usual.
has well, have I have, but has anyone else had the experience of having downloads of information in dreams and things?
I always learn in dreams.
Dreams
A lot
always
of
have, yeah.
Oh, you can't imagine. Even physics I learned in dreams.
I'm just imagining you at sitting in front of a blackboard with someone showing you equations and head.
I swear, I had a dream once. I was talking with a Russian guy who explained me about the toroidal forces and how they are actually shaping even an entire universe and all that bullshit years and years ago. Figure it out. So
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I learned a lot of stuff in dreams.
Yeah, one thing, anytime if I ever hear that someone disregards their dreams or acts like you should never pay attention to things that happen in dreams, I'm just like, I don't know, man. Dreams have been a big thing for me my whole life. I've always paid attention to my dreams.
What I have experienced with dreams myself is that sometimes sometimes I dream something, and then 5, 10, 20 years later, that I dream is experienced in real life, and I cannot remember that dream in that moment. That information that dream told me, kind of like a future vision of an event which I do not understand, and I beginning and then I understand once I experience that. That's something that has happened to me a few times. Where I dream something, and then I like a place or a building or a person.
Mhm.
And when I dream in that, at that moment, I don't understand what is that, who is that.
I've
And
yeah,
as the
I,
years go by, yeah,
I've had that same experience a lot, and anytime I
mm,
have it, I take it as a good sign. I
yeah,
usually take it as a positive sign that the way that I usually interpret it is that if I get that real strong memory of, I've been here and I've seen this happening,
mm,
usually it's that I feel like I'm on the track that I'm supposed to be on. That,
yeah,
that in some way I've kind of been pushing towards a certain direction and there's these landmarks that I
yeah.
recognize. That's the way that I feel about
I I have never known how to feel about that, but I'm sure everybody has had the same experience where you dream something and then it happens eventually. I didn't know how to interpret the situation, but that's a good way to see it. How about you, Wu?
Well, if you take in consideration that everything happens in the same moment, how it's called this in English.
it. That time isn't linear.
Exactly. Time is not linear, it's just how we perceive it so that we can
Make sense of it.
function
Yeah.
properly, exactly, and to make sense of our actions and our thoughts and everything. Because if we would actually live in all realities, right, in the same moment, we couldn't understand anything from it. We would probably go nuts.
Or it would be
So,
unintelligible. It would be static. Yeah.
exactly. So it's for many people, it's already difficult to be aware in one reality, right? Figure it out if
Mm,
you would be aware in two realities, in which you happen to be in different time zones, different jobs, positions, different galleries, and all that, right?
Mhm.
You would start to to freak out and probably to go a little bit mad. If you would live in every reality in which you can actually and possibly live, you could
mm.
not function properly at all. So
Yep.
time, it's not linear. It's how we see it based on our senses.
Yeah, like the process of time is essential to our experience. You can't separate.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay,
You need
let's
space time to experience something. Without that, you cannot. So,
Dylan, had you ever get drunk?
yeah, I used to be a pretty big boozer back in my younger days, but these days are really I have drinks maybe once a week and that's
Uh,
about it. I like you were saying, I much prefer to just, like you said, have a drink or two with have a good conversation. Other than that,
mhm.
no.
You're 36, I think.
Me, no, I'm 32 now.
32. Yeah, you already went through a long life, let's say, experience. So by the time we are our age, you don't really go crazy on drinking and doing things you're not supposed to do
Yeah,
because you already, yeah,
yeah, I've been through just about almost everything that you could go through in your most people's crazy 20s.
yeah.
But I've always even though I had my crazy times, I always went back to my yogic practice and self-knowledge. It That was
Mhm.
always, like an anchor to let me not go too far and to not be lost in the senses and etc.
Yeah. One of the things that keep me in my path is the awareness of my mortality. I know I can die at any time, and I often, I read the news or turn on TV and somebody die, whether it's rich or powerful, whatever. So I never had that. This is why I don't have the ambition to become something is not meant to be. Something that is. I don't want to be part of a, how can I say, society like a Elon Musk,
Why
or be
not?
somebody, because it's not in me. It's nothing wrong to be rich and powerful, but I don't feel like it's my place. uh, I want to do what I need to do that is within my innate path, because of my mortality, because I know this is not this is so temporary. It's just I must do what matters.
I think maybe what you're feeling is that what anything that you do get, you want to use for, the mission that we're here to do, I guess you
Mm,
could say. Like for me, like I've had some times where I've been well established and I had some money to do things that I wanted to do. And
mm,
anytime I had resources, I would use them for things that I cared about. You know.
yeah, if I had money, I probably will spend my time finding occult books and then strange information, and I would use it for spiritual development. I probably will live normal, but I will just spend my time studying and researching and finding the true nature of reality. I want to know what's behind the veil, what makes this reality operate.
Mm.
That's what I will do if I had money.
I don't I don't know if I'm ever going to have that kind of money, but
Hmm.
in the last 2 years, I've at least been able to have kind of a stable life and not have as chaotic of things going on. And this last year,
Hmm.
like I told you, I tried to start a newspaper, which was a pretty ridiculous idea. But I did feel good that I was able to, employ people for a little bit. I was able to, pay
Hmm.
people to help me with my thing. And I was able to give people inspiration at least. And in this coming year, I'll be able to do a little bit, but everything I'm going to do is going to be the podcast and, giving people a platform. And if I
Hmm.
can, I would like to get my newspaper started again, but like I think me and you were discussing, I'm going to do it on a lot smaller scale
Hmm.
where I'm just, even if it starts out as like a one page
Yeah.
newspaper where it's just, a little bit of news and then, people's creative writing and art, just to get it out there, just to get, there might be an electronic form, and then I'll put, a paper version out. But
Hmm.
yeah, like I can survive, I can, I don't need much, but any extra I have, I'm going to put towards pushing
Yeah.
things forward. Yeah.
Well, just take a small steps to where you're depending on yourself alone
Mhm.
in the beginning. So that way, you rely on yourself to make things happen. As things become more complex and larger and more people see it, and maybe some of them want to participate, then you begin to expand it slowly. And that's how you begin to develop your newspaper, I believe,
Hmm.
one small step at a time. Don't go huge.
Yeah, I think when I was younger, I definitely had times where I got too ambitious, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now, I'm kind of I'm content with just doing what I do. And, right now my focus is just, on work, make a little bit of money,
Mhm,
work on my music, perform
mhm,
music, do my podcast, and just grind away and just, put positive energy out there. Not necessarily always positive, but put progressive energy, I guess you could say, out there.
mhm. Wu, any comments?
Man, I feel just like a guest in this life, in this world, in this reality, and I decided to just enjoy whatever comes. I don't care about anything.
Hmm.
Well, that's good. I'm not. I mean, that's like I, I, I think if more people had your attitude, Woo, I think there'd be a lot less. People would have a lot less issues.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I guess,
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, people who see me, when I post, they might think I'm kind of a high strung person, but honestly, I don't care about much. I just care about the work that I do. I care about the things that I put out and the few people that I have connections with, and beyond that, I really don't like politics, war. I no.
If there's something which drives me in this life, it's the joy,
Hmm.
I need to have joy in the job that I'm doing, in everything. I can find joy even if in being sick of, I don't know, in
Hmm.
having a flu. No, sometimes it's joyful. You just stay at home, watch movies, you don't give a fuck about anything
I could
else.
feel that.
Oh,
Being sick definitely has its positives.
yeah. And I like to laugh a lot because honestly, you don't have to take it hard or to carry all the weight of the world or something like that. You can see how it works, how people are, how things are, and everything, around you. You solutions to what problems you may have temporary, in the moment, and just go on. Keep walking, keep smiling, keep laughing. You have one life.
I think that's something a lot of people forget is that you're allowed to enjoy things sometimes. You're allowed to just like not have to have something you're fighting against or something you're struggling against all the time.
What for? All that gives you only stress. Stress brings you illness, sickness. I mean, why would you destroy yourself? Over what? All things are temporary. All situations are only temporary. It's not that you will be stuck in one situation for your whole life. I mean,
Hmm.
you can stay stuck in there only if you will. Because all things are done by your will.
Hmm.
So what the fuck?
I think
You have a
take
life, enjoy it,
I think
and that's
take
it.
yeah, I think taking responsibility for your own experiences is a big part of being a full person.
Yeah, but responsibility, it's by default. I mean, when you're a grown up, at least you have to be responsible for everything you're doing, right? For your acts, right?
And even for what you're experiencing.
Exactly.
Yeah, even your reactions to things, your how you're perceiving the world, a lot of people give that up and say, no, I don't feel good because of this, or I hate the way things are because of this. Well, I mean, you're giving up your power.
Man, but is there perceptions of things, right? No one else is to be blamed for what and how they are seeing things, right? So why are they angry with that?
There is one quote that I really like from Marcus Aurelius, and it's one that I always remember. He says, "What we do now echoes in eternity." I often remember that when I do things. If one day I have the capacity to influence large groups of people, I will not be like the normal politician or people that normally run nations or religions, or because I always remember one thing: my mortality, and that my actions will have echoes in eternity, like Marcus Aurelius. So the weight of my actions and what will happen, the magnitude of the situation of my momentary life prevents me from, let's say, being corrupt or doing things that are against the well-being of society, or taking advantage of power, because what I'm doing will have repercussions for ages, I mean, that's how I will be remembered as a being. Not only that, but I mean, if I gain wealth or luxury, all that will be a loss when I die, so it's meaningless. For what it matters is what it matters, is the good of the world. You
I
know what I mean?
promise if you make me a coffee, it will echo in eternity.
I think that, Marcus Aurelius, those
Mhm.
meditations, I think there's a reason why so many people recommend that book to people, because
Yeah.
it has high spiritual concepts, but he connects them to your place in the community and your place in society.
Well, look like a Joe Biden or Trump. Trump is like how old, 70 something years old.
Mm.
He has been president of the United States, billionaire, beautiful wife. His life is about to end, maybe another 10, 20 years.
Mhm.
He's going to age, decay, get disease, and die. So we can say that all this just, I mean, when he dies, he's going to be lost. So he's basically in an illusion, a dream, and he was swallowed by the dream.
Right.
He believed this reality as truth. And so he has all these things that I guess by having all this wealth, all this advantage, he was fooled by reality. This is why I'm so happy that I'm this poor nobody. I'm so happy that I was not born a royal like the English royals,
Mhm.
where they have all this wealth, all this power, all this luxury, all these castles and clothes and attention of the world. These people forever, for whatever reminds of their life, will be fooled by this reality. Will never contemplate anything outside this physical world because their life is so good. It's basically their course,
Yeah,
and yet, yeah.
I could imagine if I was in control, Trump would be reborn as, the son of a poor miner in Pennsylvania somewhere, like to give him the other side. Because I've
I,
like I kind of
the
feel like
point I'm trying to, yeah, the point I'm trying to make is that it's a blessing that we were born as a nobody. It's a blessing that we suffer so much. I mean, we all here suffer. It is this reason why we awoke. If we had not experienced tremendous suffering and chaos in our lives, we would have never figured out anything. Not we will even question reality. You know what I mean? So our
yeah,
lives were a blessing. The life of a king or prince is a curse because they only have this momentary life. They will die believing this reality was true. They will never transcend it.
Yeah, like I think about, my experiences when I was younger,
Mm,
from around, from when I was born. I was around, parents that were addicts and had a really chaotic lifestyle. And then the family that I
mm,
was kind of adopted into when I was around 10 had tons of sickness, with a lot of people dying from cancer and other ailments. So from a really young age, I was really embedded with the how transitory life was, and how fleeting, the material
mm,
world was. And even though it came along with a lot of sadness and a lot of pain, I really appreciate that I was given that perspective in this life.
mm. That's true. We have a Spectre here. You're welcome to talk if you like. Uh, this is a kind of a podcast for everybody. So if you want to talk, you're welcome. Spectre?
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot. I'm just listening now for now, and I'll chime in if anything.
All right.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you
so
guys
so
for having
since
me.
since we have a little break, I pulled out the I Ching. I have a copy of the I Ching, the old Chinese, book of divination. And so
Hmm.
I pulled out a random page, and so I'll give a little reading of that to see what this book has to say about what's going on right now. Okay.
All right.
So, the ridge pole sags, a destination profits fortune. Great excess, the ridge pole sags, beginning and ending are weak. The firm in the center, with gentleness of wind, success is possible. The true gentleman stands alone, fearless, he retires from the world without regret. I think that's pretty apt for what's going on.
Mm,
I mean, I think all of us here in like the group that we're in, we all are individuals. We're all people that got together because we don't accept what the space that we're in.
mm.
But I
Yeah.
also think that said that what we're doing is right. That what we're doing is something positive, that we're taking these conversations that we would have, that I mean, normally, like me and you, Lucy, we would have this conversation without the recording, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but with everything that we've been talking about now being on the podcast and put out, it does
Mm.
something, like we have, even though right now we have around 80 views or so per podcast, but out of those 80 views, even if there's one person who hears what we talk about and is like, you know what, I'm glad there's someone, who thinks similar to me.
Uh, so let me know when it's downloaded, and I will put it on my channel too, so people can view it. And I will do the same thing as the other one.
Okay.
We'll put down the video so they can go into your channel too.
Now it'll be up by
Uh,
tomorrow. This one's gonna take a little bit more time because I gotta combine, because I have in case like you don't know, I have like a camera, and then I have like my
uh,
laptop recording. I have like a lot of different things I gotta combine, but yeah,
ah.
by tomorrow, by early tomorrow,
Okay.
it
No.
should be up. Yeah,
Take your time.
yeah. But no, yeah, I've been glad to catch up with you, because I think that uh, me and you are going to have to do these podcasts, at least once a week. Because I think me and you both, because I think we both have, so many, things that we could talk about that.
That's too much. The people will get tired of it.
Well,
Let's
well,
let's make it once a month. That way, it's more rare, and people will enjoy when they hear me. You know what I mean?
yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine. That would be we're good.
Yeah,
Oh my
but
God, the drama queen has spoken in you.
The more red you make, like the more red you make your appearance, the more people enjoy it. If I make myself too available, then people will find too much access to me. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, I get you. You wanna keep a mystique going on.
well, it's like for example, if you like a piece of cake a lot, and you normally can only have it once every 2 weeks,
Right.
you will enjoy it very much. But if suddenly you have it every day, it will mean nothing. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna remember your
It will
analogy.
mean something. Honestly, it will mean diabetes or how it's called.
Mm.
Too much sugar from the cake,
Yeah.
Maybe next month we can do what we can do. If you like, we can continue the book reading. You let me know when you feel like it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. We
And
could fit because I don't think we even. I don't think we even started talking about. We only got to about half of your book before it got to about 2 hours. Yeah.
yeah, we only read like 2 pages, and I wanted to read like maybe 4 or 5, because that's where the main content where it explains everything else goes.
Yeah.
How many years you wrote it took to write that book?
I think 22. I began in 99 and I finished in 2021. So it's
Well,
22
Dylan,
years.
22 years you have material for your podcast
Well, that
in
makes
here.
sense. That makes sense. Why after 2 pages it was 2 hours of a
Exactly,
podcast.
see?
I don't know if I ever going to write more books, but there is one book I made. I don't know if I ever going to do it. I wanted to write a transcript or a book. How can I say? A book, a manuscript. No, a book, manual for eternal life. I believe human beings eventually will reach the capacity to live forever. We will be able to regenerate their bodies. So I want to give them the knowledge to be able to sustain life for centuries and millenniums. I want to show them how to achieve that. I don't know if we're going to be able to, if we are going to be able to access that technology. It's going to come in the next 20 to 30 years.
Well, I mean,
Maybe
if we don't have material technology by then, you can add in my Kriya Yoga techniques. If someone does those enough, there's a lot of transcendental things that could happen.
But imagine a book. It would be like writing about how to use the plane 1,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody will think insanity. What is a plane? What do you mean you're writing how to ride a plane? Right. So basically, I'm getting ahead of time, and I'm describing the possibility of eternal life and how to live a large amounts of time. What type of consciousness and mental preparation one requires to withstand centuries, millenniums, billions of years. I mean, think about how much resistance it will require for you to exist for 1,000 years. You know how repetitive the day to day is, even when you live 20, 30, 40, 100 years, it's mundane.
Oh, I was gonna tell you, Lucy. I
Mm,
heard. I call you Lucy.
mm. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay, Lucy. Anyways, so I heard a story. Have you ever heard of the higher side chats? It's a there's a
No.
Yeah, so there's a podcast that this guy does that's called the Higher Side Chats, and he has
Uh,
people that are into esoteric and paranormal things, and he had a
yeah.
guy on who told a story about how from all of these investigations that he did about ancient civilizations, that it was
Mhm,
his conjecture that there were higher beings that were helping to instruct humans to kind of move into a level of being that was
mhm,
non-physical and to kind of transcend material life as a way of surviving cataclysms. And that there
yeah.
was this idea that there's these non-material beings that lived on the earth in years before and knew about periodic cataclysms, And their solution to surviving these things wasn't to go underground, but was to move into a, level of existence that didn't depend on material reality.
Basically, you describe what I'm attempting to do. All my research and seek of knowledge is to gain that type of body, a body which is no longer dependent on physical sustenance, food, air, gravity. That's why I do my meditations. Is basically to transmute my consciousness into pure thought and move in matter, physical reality, just by thought. Like for example, I can close my eyes and I can imagine my apartment and move in the apartment. I can go outside and I can levitate and fly up to the skies and visit the moon. A lot of my work in the mental is basically that. That would be very interesting information if you want to share it with me. It's basically what I'm intending to do
And
to access that.
yeah, and the thing that I was gonna say too is that I have two sources of information that from people who talk about those kind of things that people could do. From my family in New Mexico, my grandmother always told me stories of a medicine woman that their family knew. And the only reason I knew about this was the first stories she would say is how her dad knew this woman and who was a medicine woman in their community, and that she would come by every once in a while and bring them food and things. And he would specifically tell his wife, like, I'm not going to eat anything from that woman, because he was a real high up leader in the spiritual community in New Mexico, in Taos. And but even though he was, a spiritual leader, he was kind of paranoid about what the medicine people in that area could do. And he actually said that he was worried that this woman would put some kind of curse on the food or something like that. And this woman that my grandmother knew was well known in the community for doing things like people would see her going for walks out in the mountains near the town just by herself in the middle of the night. And there would be instances where people would say they saw her at different places at the same time. Like someone said, oh, I just was talking to such and such. Like, oh no, I was just talking to such and such, and they were, 5 miles away
Well,
down the road.
Human beings are spiritually developed. They can create a body that's the same as the one they use and move and be in two different places at the same time.
Yeah. And so I was going to say, like, I have these two different things where there's one that's this really personal connection I have to people in that area that were into, medicine teachings that are really, the stories are really outside of normal experience. Like in Taos, New Mexico, there's a traditional story about a guy who was going out with a hunting party into the mountains and to hunt deer, and he shot a deer. And then when they went to go gather the body, it was a man laying on the ground. And the instance was that they shot someone who was a shapeshifter, and it actually ended up being like a federal case investigated by the FBI because it ended up being that someone was murdered, but then there was this story that, oh no, we were chasing a deer and shot it.
Other aspects of what I do is also,
Oh.
What did you say, Will?
It was an excuse to cover the murder.
Okay. Yeah, no, I completely understand that. There was a book though. There is actually a book from a well-known European author called "The Man Who Killed the Deer." There's an entire book by this guy who researched that story because like obviously, like Wu said, like you would think, oh, it was an excuse that someone murdered someone and covered it up by saying that they saw a deer. But there were so many eyewitnesses to the event that it caused this anthropologist to write a book about it called "The Man Who Killed the Deer" because it was a guy. And so yeah, no, yeah.
And poor guy.
Yeah, there's just some guy who was like wearing
Forest.
fur, who was wearing fur, running around the bush, like just having a good time, and all of a sudden he gets shot.
Yeah.
Part of my exercise is also to attempt to move like an animal, like a bird or like some type of animal in the forest. Have you ever tried that? To try to become the animal and just move in the grass or in the skies and in your mind. I don't know.
Yeah,
I've done that too.
I
Yeah.
had one really vivid lucid dream where I was an animal that ran on all fours. Actually, I could feel like what it was like to be able to run really fast on four legs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, let's take a quick break. I opened a page of the Bhagavad Gita, a random
Okay.
page. Let's see what this says. For this, the entire universe is my divine creative power, right? Composed of the primary qualities difficult to understand, those who resort to this alone transcend the creative power. Wrongdoers, confounded, lowest of men do not resort to this. Them deprived of knowledge, they have recourse only to demonic conditions. Four kinds of people worship me: the afflicted, the desirous of knowledge, and people who are looking for welfare and knowledge. Yeah.
Explain.
Oh, that basically that you have to get. I think that what that's saying is that you have to get to a certain point in your life until you turn towards self knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I
That's true.
think that you have to kind of expend a certain amount of energy into the world before you realize that it's futile.
That's true.
I haven't really talked about it too much, when I talk to you guys, but in my 20s, I basically experienced just about everything that people could experience. I had a wife, I lost two children, and I helped raise one child, and I, felt like what it was like to be in a domestic situation with wife and kids and all that. And
Did you ever had any kids on your own or both of them die and you never had any more kids?
yeah, no, I had one child that died when they were really young, and then one other that my wife wasn't able to have because of medical things.
Mhm.
And then later on, I was with someone else that I helped raise their child.
But you never got the child on your own that is alive now.
No, I never. I only got to see, another person's baby, and so
I think that's a message from the universe that
yeah, like I honestly feel like I wasn't meant to have children.
I feel like if you have children, your soul gets restrained here because once you have kids, your energy is here now, and you're not gonna want to leave the world when your bloodline is here, when your children are here, when your wife is here. So having children constrains you into another incarnation. I feel like that having children will trap you here. So maybe you were able to free yourself
Yeah.
through the death of those children.
And what's really interesting is that one time, there was one time that I went to go see a medium, like a psychic, who was this really well-known lady from Hawaii.
Mhm.
who came around, and I was able to talk to her. And she told me a lot of things I knew already, but the thing that she told me that, let me know that she knew what she was talking about was she said, oh, and by the way, I don't know what you think about this, but I can see 2 young children with you, and those were my kids, and I didn't say anything to her about them.
Mhm.
And she said, yeah, you have like 2 children that are with you. And so I kind of, I get what you mean. I think that, even though I don't, like, honestly, I think, if I had a choice, I don't
Mhm.
know if I don't, like, this is a real deep thing, but I don't know if I would choose this again. Like,
Mhm.
I think if I could totally do things over again, or if I could control things, I think I would probably have those children with me, but then that would mean that I'm not able to do what I'm doing, because
If you had,
because my
yeah, you will.
whole life energy would be given to making sure those kids could do what they do, but because they weren't able to have a
Mhm.
life, I feel like it's on me that to do what I have to do. Yeah.
Basically, if you had children, you will transfer all your energy or your living energy into them for them to have the opportunity to ascend, to free themselves. But for the most part, people, children, and most people don't follow that path. But the point that your children died is it means that you're not meant to stay here. That you mean to free yourself from this world. This is why I'm so careful not to engage with women. I don't want the issues of children and pregnancies, and I want to be free from this. I don't want to be in this body. I don't want to feel disease and pain, and I don't like the idea of seeing other people die and age and struggle to survive. I don't want to be here. So not only that, so I don't want to introduce this course to another human being. And at the same time, I don't want to trap myself by reproducing.
Yeah. I feel really similar to you in that, these days I've gone on dates with women, and
Mhm.
I've had interactions here and there, but like you said, I'm really careful about who I give my energy to and how I spend my time, because anytime I meet up with someone, I can read people really well. I can see, where they're at. And
Mhm.
I just know myself, and like you said, I know that there's a chance maybe that I could meet someone who's, really on my same page, but not
Mhm.
children. I really don't, I couldn't see myself having any more kids, because I don't know. I'm just,
Look what happened to those children. The act of being born opened them to causality, to chance, and that chance lead them into death. They were just children.
yeah.
This is what this reality is. It's very, very cruel. It kills children. It kills anybody. You never escape alive out of here. So reproducing is an act of evil, I think, in my point of view.
Yeah. I think in the future there could be a time when
Mm.
making children could be okay. Like, I think there could be a time in the future where society is at a point where all children are instructed in self knowledge, and they're aware of the tools that they have at their disposal. And there's just too much these days. The world is in such a state that I'm like, I'm not completely against, you know,
Mm.
reproduction, but right now, I think it's really just up to us. We have to push things forward. We have to change things to create a world where someday it'll be a good idea to make new people.
I think this creation is flawed, defective from the very beginning. That's why I think this dimension has to end. I don't think mankind will ever reach a point of evolution that it will be able to produce an appropriate society. I no longer believe in humanity. Uh, I think escaping this dimension and moving into a higher reality where the flawedness and the deficiency of this reality no longer exists, I think it will be accurate. But at the same time, I know mankind is just going to keep breeding like rabbits. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
So at the same time, I feel that we should give them a system, a machinery where they can operate in a more optimus manner. This is why I speak about world government, because I believe that that's the path for the future, where whoever remains here can structure reality in a more adequate way and use the energies of mankind to evolve. Like right now we have all these different governments fighting against each other for resources. All these energies are being wasted on competition against each other and wars and materialism and I want this and I want that, but if you can combine the energies and the intellect and the imagination of the entire species, then you can utilize these energies to generally improve the entire world society. You see what I mean? Even though, yeah.
The thing I was gonna say is that in in the yogic teachings that I follow, we're just experiencing this one slice of life, and this might be, our last incarnation. Like for us, like this might be the last time that we have the experience of being a human. And there's an infinite amount of worlds that our consciousness, inhabits. This one right now, I feel like, because of our perspective, any energy we put out should be towards liberating, other consciousnesses. But I just feel
I agree with you. This is why I don't feel like reproducing necessary, because there is infinite amount of universes and dimensions and experiences outside this physical reality, and therefore, I don't need reproduce. I don't need for this world to remind, because I know that higher beyond this, I will experience beings that are much, how can I say, more beautiful, more creative, more deeper. So for me, the continuation of this world is meaningless. Now, because I have compassion, and I'm not planning to remind here, this is my last life. I hope so. I'm working towards that goal. But I still have compassion for billions of poor souls that are going to stay here. And this is why I trying to introduce the idea of world government for them, This is not about me. I'm done. I'm out of here. So it's about them.
Okay, so
Lucifer, Lucy.
Yeah.
Sorry to chime in here for a second. Don't you think, though, that there's duality in this world? I mean, if there's bad, there has to be good, because there is a law of duality here for everything. It's like immovable. If there's salty, there's sweet. If there's night, there's day. It's like the Kabbalistic tree. You look at the tree, has two sides. So the thing here is that we're in one side of the tree. That's the thing. Everybody's egoic. Everybody here is looking at somebody and saying, well, how can I exploit that person? How can I gain the maximum pleasure off of that person for myself? And that's what this world is. And then we're starting slowly to figure that out, that everybody's a bigot. Everybody's racist. And that's only going to continue with the internet, with Twitter and all this stuff, this hive mind. It's showing us our flaws. It's showing that we're all connected, and we have to basically, instead of, having that default, egoic thing, it's like, let's do what Jesus said, and all these masters, they talk about altruism. You know what I mean? Like they talk about love thy neighbor like thyself. How do you do that? Like how exactly do we love somebody like that, like we were living another instance, or like we were living in their life through their eyes, you know, and treat
No,
people like that.
yeah, I think he's really talking about Spectre. You're really talking about that next step, that step beyond living for yourself and this philosophy of getting, what you need. And as long as you're okay, you can lock yourself down and, like set up your compound. But I think we have to move into a way of being where we take into account that were these things.
I, you cannot love the world unless you love yourself. You cannot really develop the world or change it unless you change yourself, and unless you love yourself and you put all your energy. Selfishness is good, because unless you develop to a point where you can actually change the world, all this love your neighbor, love of is meaningless. Uh, I think Jesus is Christ's teachings are weakness. You cannot love somebody that killed your father or your child, or somebody that's doing bad things. I think you should not love. You should love whoever deserves to be loved, and not love everybody universally who does not deserve that love. This is why the Christ teachings have never really worked. If somebody's harming you, you may forgive them, but yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think people don't even know how to love themselves, That's the first big issue. I mean, most people don't accept themselves for what they are. I mean, most people don't even know who they are and what they are. They don't get to know themselves, And in order to love yourself, you have to know yourself.
Exactly.
Well, who's driving you is the question. That's literally spirituality in a nutshell, is identifying who you are at any given moment. Because people
Exactly.
can be one person, they could be 100 people a day in a flip of a hat. So those are the egos that people develop. So Lucy was saying, if you have a kid, you're going to be attached to that kid. But what is attached to that kid? It's your ego. That's the lower self. But remember the law of duality. We also have a higher self. So
Man,
it's all
you
about
need ego.
trying to figure out, how do we subdue the lower self and not feed it? Like it's like feeding a dog. Like you're going to feed a dog and you go walking, it's going to be really strong and it's going to end up walking you instead of you walking the dog. You know what I
Man,
mean?
you need ego. You understand? I mean,
You
your
absolutely need
awareness
ego. Of course, you need
ego.
ego. But the thing is, the ego has to work for you, not against you.
You
Because
have to
that's the thing.
find the
Who
balance.
is the king? Who is the king of the castle, in your opinion? And do you know who's driving you? For what reason? Who's driving you at any given moment? For whatever reason?
That's why self-knowledge
You
is
know,
important,
listen, it is
no,
said that
yeah,
the
knowing
mind
what that self
is
is.
either
Yeah.
your beautiful friend, or a cruel master. So it's up to you to control your thoughts and to find a balance, you know?
Okay, I'm gonna have a quick
There is
smoke.
not a lower self or a higher self. You only have one self, your awareness, which can extend wherever you want. But you have to find the balance in things. You have to discover who you are, what you are able to do, and all that, And when you get to know yourself, you will find that balance. But until you get to know that yourself, you will abuse many things until you learn actually who you are and what
No,
you're able to do.
absolutely. But we have tools to understand who we are. We have the seven sins. A lot of these egos, a lot of stuff is connected to the seven sins. It literally is. People who have lust look at porn. You know what I mean? And go after women on Tinder. This is what motivates them. So you have to figure out which category of these seven sins is your master. You're literally the warden of your own jail cell. This is the first level, is the egoic level. Is this the very first level? We're in here, and this is ego land. In fact, it's like I've been shown some stuff, in my practices or whatever, And what people think are ghosts are just pieces of people. It's what people left behind. It's what they fed. It's their ego. It's literally like, let's say if I'm a lusty person and I go after women and all this, I'll become an incubus because I fed that side of myself so much that when I die, that will literally pop out of me and look for somebody that has the same energy signature as that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this state of condition of the world could be a manifestation of a previous life of all of us. Maybe we die in this state of mind, and when we die, entire reality simply kind of manufacture itself into this condition, you know. So I wonder if what we see now in the world is us as a previous life.
Well, it's different peoples. These ghosts that people leave behind that they feed so much, they actually go and they cause mischief with people and they cause all kinds of issues in a realm you cannot see. You know, it's a lower realm, but it's there. And they could just, you know, it's like Mr. Smith. They could jump into people. This is the whole thing with demons. They could just jump into, you know, somebody, cause an argument, you know, ruin your day. You lose your energy. It's an energy game. That's what it is. This whole thing.
Well, I don't believe in demons and angels and gods.
You could say energy. You could say energy for different words. It's like ego energy. Let's put it that way. Disembodied ego energy. The worst demons are of man, actually.
We could say that demons is energy, like you say. Is if you concentrate in a negative thinking, and you feed it, then we could say that that's a demon, you know. But it's not real. It's just your centralization of mind into that behavior or that belief. I understand what you're saying.
Or there could be, entities that are fed energy from people. You know, like
that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
That the psyche, it depends what you feed in your own psyche. Upon death, you know, there could be a lot of entities that pop out of that person, but it's what they've been feeding all their lives. It's their ego.
I will take a little break.
But you okay, sorry. Go ahead. Got a little excited. Yeah, I was gonna say the thing is too that there's there's different zones upon death. Supposedly, this is my thought on it. I think there's different zones. Yeah, and I think that we need to feed our higher like part of ourselves. It's more altruistic and cares about people and thinks well about people. And when you have a child, you know, you look at that child, you hug that child, and you get then if you feel something in your heart, you know what I mean? And all those little things are feeding that positive energy, and that positive energy is literally the gas that's going to get you from point A to point B.
And that can happen on really subtle levels, where when you're interacting with someone, you know, you're chatting with someone on the internet, if you just the way that you feel about that person that you're talking to can have an effect. You know, just the way that your intentions are when you're putting messages out there has an effect, you know.
Sorry, I just drank some coffee. I'm a little I don't know.
no worries. Yeah, no. But I really give
it's just I'm passionate about this stuff. This is my forte. I've been studying this stuff since I was 18. I'm 36 now. That's studying yoga, Sufism, Kabbalah, all kinds of esoteric type things, just to figure out what construct we're in, because I've had a lot of experience since I was young, like a lot of young kids, and I just questioned. I was just like, what is this? What are we in? You know what I mean? What construct are we in?
But that's one thing that we talked about earlier was that instinct. What exactly is that instinct that pushes people to go beyond, their experiences and to not believe the things that they've been told and to look beyond their senses,
Absolutely. I mean, look at words. I mean, words are just symbols that point to concepts that form these ideas. They're just, a lot of people want to be told the truth, but the thing is, you can never be told the truth because it's like pointing to the moon. You can only point with your words. You can never tell them exactly what it is. It's like, because spirituality is all about experience. Like it's
Yeah.
about experiencing what is beyond this physical realm.
Yeah, that's why the only spiritual teacher that I've ever, read their words and really followed them was someone that said, "Here, do this, follow what I'm doing, and maybe you'll see what I saw. And if you saw what I saw,
Exactly.
then you'll get what this means." That's the only person I've ever followed who was someone who they called them the householder yogi. His name was Lahiri Mahasaya, and he was well known for
Oh,
being
yes.
able to like surmount the pinnacle of self-knowledge while still being embedded in the material world, having a family, having a wife, having a job, being, having things you have to do in your community. And on top of that, still attaining self-knowledge. That ideal is what drew me to that guy that I learned from.
One of the reasons, for example, I will not be, if I ever get into a position of public, of being in the public and introducing the idea of world government or left philosophy, is that I don't give a fuck about the world. I don't care if the world gets destroyed. I don't care if everything burns down. My full concentration is in myself and in my liberation, in my own elevation. I am center of all eternity and all infinity and all reality. It is because of this reason I'm not concerned about the world sensations and what can offer to me, because I no longer care about the world and anything that offers. I'm able to say, okay, I'm able to show compassion and say, okay, this is the best possibility for you. You know what I'm saying, Dylan?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like the politicians that are there for themselves to gain things. I'm no longer concerned about this world. I'm concerned about me. This is why I can just really act in sincerity with the conditions of the of human reality. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I used to think exactly like you did. I used to think, but that is literally the position of the ego. The ego just wants for itself. It wants to be separate. It wants to be. And look at the people going to space. They want to go to space to be separate from everybody else. It's the same thing. You're already looking at it.
I don't see it that way because everything is within me. Everything is inside me. This is just one little speck of reality out of infinite possibilities. So I am the totality. Therefore, whether this universe or this planet lives or dies is not of my concern. But basically, out of compassion, I'm willing to do something for the world if the conditions permit it. Otherwise, I'm moving on.
There is some kind of a tradition in spiritual practice that someone who becomes so disillusioned and disinterested in the world that they don't want to have any part of it is the good person to take on the role of exploring non-human areas of information.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Part of my afterlife exercise and meditation is basically that I seek to experience myself in a non-physical body, because I know when this body dies, I'm going to be pure mind. And I want to be
Wait
able
a
to
minute.
navigate. Yeah.
Explore what?
Explore my own dimensions.
No. Explore known human what?
What do you mean?
What did Dylan say? That you would be good to explore what?
Can you repeat it?
I'm trying to remember what I said.
He said non-human
You said
dimensions or something. That's what he said.
Non-human.
That's what I heard.
I don't
Really,
I really don't remember what I said.
Human,
He's talking about the grays. Definitely, those grays are from lower dimension, or I don't know what they are, but they're definitely like 4D. They call them in Spanish. They call them duendes, right?
Mm.
I don't
And it
know.
doesn't
It's the
matter.
same
It's still
difference.
a construct of a human mind. You cannot explore something
Oh,
non-human.
okay. Yeah, I think
And
Wu's.
that's why I didn't
Yeah.
understand what you said.
Okay, so like, yeah, basically,
So,
are you saying that like, us humans, that we're limited in some way? Is that what you're saying?
huh? Me?
Oh yeah, like that we are you saying that there's a certain level of reality that we can't?
Oh, man. No. You know, all reality that you perceive it as a human, you know? Everything. So you are only moving through the human consciousness at all time. You're not a dog or a plant or something, you know? So
Oh,
everything that you would experience would be still human. You cannot experience something non-human unless you are non-human, you know?
Well, I guess I would say that humanity is something that's imposed upon some kind of entity. I don't think humanity is really what we are. I think it's
exactly. Humanity
Yeah,
is
you're a
is
butterfly, I know.
yeah, yes.
look. We were talking about becoming animals, a bird or a dog or a tree. You know, aspects of self meditation are about becoming something outside the human being. You know,
But
experience.
why go lower
So,
though?
well, you can experience because in order for you to become the totality, you have to experience the lower and the higher,
Man,
the
but
hot and the
you even
cold.
when you experience being a dog in a dream, right? Or when whatever else,
Fox.
you're still experiencing as a human with your human brain, you know, which is decoding the information. So
You
you're not
can
experiencing it as a dog because
you
you're
can
not a
enchant
dog. That's what I'm
you
saying.
can enchant you know you can enchant yourself to become fox or a tiger or an eagle. You know, you can enchant yourself and concentrate yourself so deeply that your consciousness will experience itself in the animal in the animal. That's
I understand
basically
what
what
you're saying, but you're decoding it still as a human. You
you
understand
observe
this?
it. You observing it as a human consciousness, but yet you're becoming the animal too.
The animal from the point of view of a human, you know?
Mm,
I just
Uh,
don't. It has nothing to do with the brain though. This whole consciousness thing. I think personally because it seems like there's a witness behind the consciousness
Like
itself, and
that
the
the
brain is more
brain,
like a computer.
yeah, that the brain is a tool, I guess.
the brain is
Yeah,
the
it's a
tool
tool.
to decode the information from the consciousness. Without a brain, you cannot decode anything, you cannot experience anything because you don't have a reality, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting to think about the five senses because what we're decoding is literally the feed of the five senses, and
Exactly.
we're like we're that's those are information streams that are coming in, and we're decoding it. But look, it's a reconstruction. What we're constructing it in our brain. The reality is that we don't know what the real reality is. We're literally just decoding it.
Exactly.
But who is decoding is the thing. You know, who is decoding it? Who is behind this human? That's the thing we have to understand. And are we supposed to be more? I mean, my whole thought about the spiritual experience is that we're supposed to be this being that's multidimensional and that doesn't even know it. Doesn't even know that's multidimensional. Doesn't know that it's in different realms at once.
well,
Doesn't understand it.
that's exactly what we are. We are not this body. We are not this entity with our names. We are the universal consciousness. This body and brain simply is a tool for us to experience this specific expression, you know. But we are not it. We were before this body, and we will be after this body.
Okay, but you still need the body to experience something, you know?
True. Yeah.
So,
You need it for the human experience, basically. That's what we need. But we don't know if our what we call soul or higher self, you know, like the over what we don't know if it's in different realities at once. That's the thing. We don't we cannot. It's like we're trapped in a slice of a book. It's like in a page of a book. We're in just one page, but in reality, it's the whole book.
Maybe we are in a simulation, you know? We are just sims in there, thinking that we are much more than that. But you cannot know.
Well,
no?
we are in a simulation in a sense, but it's a spiritual simulation. It has nothing to do with computers, and
Correct.
there's a very good reason why we're in the simulation.
Or
It's
like
But you cannot know if it has or not something with a computer. Actually, you cannot know it.
because especially too, if it was a mental simulation, the way a dream is. I mean, a dream is a simulation that it's really hard to tell if you're in it.
Anyway,
Exactly, because our brain is reconstructing reality. It's so good at graphics in a dream because we already do that naturally. We are literally reconstructing our reality as we speak. Everybody's constructing their own reality in their brain based on five senses. So we're living inside of ourselves, in a sense.
anyway, Quantum is here. Let's say hi to him.
Oh,
Quantum.
how's it going?
Hey, Quantum.
Hey, how's it going? Hey,
Hey, Quantum.
hey, what's
I
up, man?
was telling Dylan
Hello.
that maybe you two should do a podcast about the economy. You know a lot about it. I think this will be a good podcast for him to have a material and somebody to talk to about this subject.
But yeah, Quantum, even though you came late to the show, we should have you on pretty soon for just me and you and Lucy. See what you have to contribute to everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I forgot this was being recorded. My bad.
No, that's
No,
good. That's
no.
good though.
Spectrum. That's basically the point. He wanted us to have it. Everybody come in, and he was going to record it and put it on the podcast. So you're supposed to talk.
But things have really been going good. I'm glad everyone, shares their thoughts. We'll do a podcast like this every once in a while because
Yeah.
I really like hearing what everyone has to think and the different perspectives on everything.
Yeah. Anyway, what were you saying, Spectrum?
Oh, I forgot where I was at with this whole thing.
We will.
It was my fault, sorry.
Okay,
I think we were talking about how the human being is multidimensional, and we're in one slice of this dimension, and how this is like a training simulation where anything we think of, it literally just bounces back at us. I don't know if you noticed that, but like synchronicities, that's one of the things. It's like you think something, and then you'll literally see a license plate, with whatever you were connected to, whatever you were thinking about, and it's like, oh, this is a giant feedback loop. So obviously, why would there be a giant feedback loop in this reality? It's obviously to train that individual. So my whole thing is like, I think that this is a training simulation to perfect that individual. It's like being put in a computer system, in a simulation or whatever, and every bad thing you think of, it just literally just reflects back, or any good thing you think of reflects back as well. So it's like, oh,
like a training.
This is what we're in.
simulation.
Training,
I
yeah.
think those synchronicity are actually working like the ads on YouTube. Or on internet, you look for something, right? And suddenly you have any page you open, you have the ads with what you are thinking of or looking for, right? It's the same way the synchronicities are working. You are thinking of something and suddenly you see what you're thinking of here and there. This reality is pretty funny, actually.
It's a very strange reality where you are pushing to it. I didn't choose to be here. I was just pushing to physical existence, without my consent. I mean, why is this reality this way? I mean, why am I here? I mean, when you question yourself, it's strange that you just wake up in this body and you're surrounded in this reality, and you live in this way. You
You
did
know,
not exist.
yeah, when I
Uh,
was around like 7 years old and earlier, I felt like I was in a dream a lot. Maybe it was just because I had a lot of crazy experiences, but it wasn't until I was around 12 or 13 that I started getting the idea of reality put into me. Like I always kind of had a slippery hold on my existence, you know.
Same
No.
here. Same here. Exactly.
When I was a kid, I actually always thought that I got lost in here and I'm not from this world. Something is wrong, you know? For a few years, I was thinking only this, when the hell do I go back home, you know? But after that, I said, okay, I'm here. It seems that I can't escape for now, so let's just enjoy it, you know? And by the way, Lucy, why are you here in this life? To complain and to be a drama queen. It's your role, you're perfect for it. Shoot me.
Yeah, it's
you
like
know,
you would have to
often
understand causality, Lucy. It's like the butterfly effect. You would have to understand why things are the way they are, because like one domino falls and then a bunch of them fall. But the only person or the only being that knows that if you're in a higher level, suppose that you understand why things are the way they are and how the dominoes fall.
I often go back before one of my exercises to go back in time before I was born. I attempt to see that emptiness, that space, that nothingness. What was it for that? That's an aspect of understanding this reality by going back all the way to a beginning that was no beginning, and to see that projection. And when we die, we're going back into that state. This amount of life that we experience in here is just a moment in comparison to the totality of nothingness that has ever been. So
Well, I think with that, we're going to have to wrap up. I wish we could keep going, but we're getting to the end of my recording space on the recorder.
I was going to be here just for a few minutes, and how long we did it?
No, we're done. I think we got to get done now. I think we only have about 5 minutes.
No.
left.
What I'm saying is, I was just going to talk to you for a few minutes, and then I was going to go.
Okay.
So how long would we did it? Yeah, how long would we did it?
We're at about 2 hours and 15 minutes now.
Shit. All right, goodbye, guys.
All right. I think this has been a good podcast. And I'm glad everyone showed up.
It was fun, you know?
And we'll do this at least once a week. Just even just these open ones where we have anyone coming on. Okay, so yeah, glad everyone showed up, and we'll talk to y'all again soon, all right?
Bye.
All right, goodbye, everyone.
See you guys. Nice talking to you.
All right.
All
See you
right.
later.
Well, I'll be on the chat in a bit here. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.